Hello and Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the second lesson of the course Basic Arabic Grammar Part A. In this lesson we're going to be looking at adjectives mainly. So firstly adjectives and something called adjectival agreement, then looking at incorporating adjectives into the nominal sentence, and finally we'll be looking at basic question formation. So what is an adjective? I'm sure you know, but it's just a describing word, like tall or short or fat or thin. So for example we say a tall man, a tall boy, a short man, a short boy, etc. So that's what an adjective is. So how do we use them in Arabic? Well, there's two basic things you need to know about using adjectives in Arabic. Firstly, the adjective has to come after the noun. So in English we would say a tall man. In Arabic we say a man tall. We just flip it around. Okay, in English we would say a short boy. In Arabic we would say a boy short. Right? It's just the other way around. Secondly, the adjective and the noun have to agree in four things, and this is something we're going to focus on in these first few lessons. Okay, and hopefully it will become clearer with time. So this agreement has to be in four things between the adjective and the noun: in definiteness, in gender, in case, and in number. Alright, and that will become clearer as we look at each of these in turn. So in this lesson we're focusing on definiteness agreement. What that means is, if the noun is definite, and remember we looked at definite and indefinite nouns in the last lesson, and we said an indefinite noun in Arabic is one that has tanween, and a definite noun, we get rid of the tanween and we put an al at the front. Alright, so if the noun is indefinite, its adjective is also going to be indefinite. And if the noun is definite, its adjective is similarly also going to be definite. It's really as simple as that. Let's look at a few examples to clarify that. So here I have three nouns. Sayfun, the first one, just means sword. Just means sword. So if I want to say a narrow sword, so this is indefinite. Sayfun, you can see. So its adjective is also going to be indefinite. It's also therefore going to take tanween. And remember we said the adjective has to come after the noun, so it's going to come here. So a narrow sword would be sayfun, and then I use my word for narrow, which is like so. So we have a lad, a ya, and a qaf, excuse me. And that's going to take tanween. And that's the important thing. This is an indefinite adjective. It has to be indefinite because the noun which it's describing is also indefinite. So sayfun dayiqun, a narrow sword. Literally it's like you're saying a sword, a narrow. A sword, a narrow. Now if you want to make this definite, if you want to say the definite sword, well that's very easy. We just put al in front of sayf, and we get rid of that tanween, of course. And then we have to make its adjective definite as well. So we put al in front of that as well, and we get rid of the tanween there as well. So we get as-sayfu ad-dayiqu, and remember this is a sun letter, so that's going to take a shadda there, and we're just going to go straight from the fa to the dad. As-sayfu ad-dayiqu. Alright, let's look at another example of that. So finjanun, this is my second noun here. Finjanun, it's an indefinite noun. You can see there's no al, and it has this tanween at the end here. So what if I want to give this an adjective and say a clean cup, for example? The adjective comes afterwards, and I have to use the indefinite form of the adjective, alright, because I have an indefinite noun and they have to agree. So there's my word nadhifun. So this is all we mean by agreement in definiteness. One is indefinite, finjanun, the other has to be indefinite. Finjanun nadhifun, a clean cup. Alright, literally a cup, a clean. Now let's make this definite. Suppose I want to say the clean cup, so I put al in front of it, attach al to it, have to get rid of the tanween, very important. And because this is now definite, I have to make its adjective definite as well. It's a bit of an unusual concept for English speakers, talking about definite and indefinite adjectives, but we just mean this idea of having tanween and having al. That's all we're talking about. So we get al finjanun nadhifu. Remember, the noon is one of my sun letters, so I'm going to go straight from the noon of finjan to the noon of nadhif. Al finjanun nadhifu. Finally, we have baytun, which means a house. Alright, so again, let's give it an adjective. Suppose we want to say an ugly house. So I use my adjective for ugly, which is qabih. There we are. Put in the dots. Qabih. And this ha, this is the important bit, needs to have a tanween, must have tanween, because the baytun is indefinite, we have to make its adjective indefinite as well. Alright, so baytun qabihun, an ugly house. Suppose now, this is an additional step of complexity, but it's not really all that complicated. we want to give this a second adjective. So rather than saying an ugly house, we want to say an ugly, dirty house, for example. All right, an ugly, dirty house, or an ugly, dirty, narrow house would be a way of giving it 3 adjectives, but we're sticking to 2 for now. So an ugly, dirty house is what? We say baytun qabihun, and then we just put the second adjective in straight afterwards here. That's all there is to it. Just as in English we just list the adjectives and then we give the noun, so we say an ugly, dirty house. In Arabic we give the noun, baytun, and then we just list the adjectives off, one after the other. Qabihun, wasikhun. Alright? An ugly, dirty house, and so on. I could just keep on giving it more adjectives. So, baytun, qabihun, wasikhun, dayiqun. An ugly, dirty, narrow house. Alright, now let's make this definite. So first we want to say the ugly, dirty house. Again, I'm sure you're very familiar with this by now. Put an al in, and get rid of my tanween. Qabihun, have to do the same thing. Put an al in, get rid of my tanween. So I connect from the ta to the lam. So al-baytul qabihu, again, wasikhun, put an al in, get rid of that tanween. And there's my sukoon above the lam. So I get al-baytul qabihul wasikhu, and rather the ugly, narrow house. So now we want to try and incorporate these adjectives into the nominal sentence that we learned in the previous lesson. So remember, the nominal sentence was just something of the structure X is Y, the man is tall. But now suppose rather than saying the man is tall, we want to give the man an adjective of its own. So we want to say the handsome man is tall, or the close man is tall, or the distant man is tall. Alright, so we're just giving that man an adjective. How would we do that? Let's have a look at a few examples. So here we have 3 nominal sentences. Right, I've just left big gaps here because we're going to be filling these in, so don't let that put you off or confuse you. Alright, so let's look at the first one. Hopefully you should be able to recognize immediately that it is a nominal sentence, and the way you would do that is that you look at the 2 elements, and you would see that the first one is definite, al, baytu, alright, we have an al and no tanween, and the second one is indefinite, nadhifun, right, we have this tanween. So that indicates that this is a nominal sentence. What does it mean? Al-baytu, the house, hidden is clean, the house is clean. Alright, so what if now we want to give al-baytu here an adjective? So rather than saying the house is clean, suppose we want to say the narrow house is clean. How do we say that? So we give it an adjective in the same manner we discussed in the previous section. The word for narrow is just this, is dayiq, alright? And it has to have this al. Why? Because the thing which it's an adjective of, its noun, also has an al. In other words, this is definite, and so this has to be definite as well. So we give it this al. Let's put in our vowels, lad with a fatha, ya, and a qaf, no tanween. This is of course a sun letter, the lad. So we're just going to go from the ta straight to the lad. So we're not actually going to have sukoon here. We're going to have tashdid. Alright, we're there. So al-baytu dayiqu nadhifun. We have, let's just do a little bit of analysis. We have a subject and predicate, that's what we started off with. That's my basic nominal sentence, the house is clean, that's what we started off with. And now, what we're saying is that we have an adjective as well. An adjective of the subject. So not the house is clean, but rather the narrow house. And here, there's my hidden is, just before my predicate. Hidden in there, the narrow house is clean. Again, let's look at another example. So, al-bustanu harun. Again, you should be able to recognize that it's a nominal sentence. We have al and no tanween, so this is definite. And we have a tanween, so this is indefinite. Indefinite followed by indefinite. This must be a nominal sentence. Alright, so this is just the garden is hot. Again, we're going to try and give this an adjective. So rather than saying the garden is hot, we're going to say the ugly garden is hot. Alright, so let's give it an adjective. The word for ugly is qabih, and we're going to have this al. There it is. So qaf, ba, and ya. Alright, we have to have this al because this has an al. Alright? In other words, we have to make this definite. If we're more precise, we have to make this definite because this is definite. Okay, let's put in our vowels now. Let's put in our vowels. No tanween at the end.